dear Bagginses and Boffins.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I know this has been making the rounds all over the place. Jack Black as Tom Bombadil. Would it work? Would you want to see that? All sorts of questions. So let's just jump right in. Jack Black as Tom Bombadil, to me, makes a lot of sense.
To me, it does too, because that's kind of what he plays, kind of a sing-songy, goofy guy. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and now, for the record, he actually can play more serious stuff, but he's kind of been typecast. But I agree. He's actually really skilled
you know what
at
they
it.
say, comedic actors usually can do serious roles.
Yeah.
Not all serious actors can play comedic roles, but all comedic actors can play serious roles. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so I think he absolutely could, and I'm trying to think of who would be a better choice than him. I can't really think of any person in particular. So, like, to me, I've always thought if you're gonna make a Tom Bombadil, Jack Black would actually be the perfect candidate. The question though is, should you? Just because you could doesn't mean you should. And I am on the fence about that one. I don't know about you, but I'm still. I still don't think that Tom Bombadil is the best character to put into this because.
Oh yeah, whether they should even have Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, because I don't think like Tom Bombadil already confuses
he's
us.
just so world breaking.
Right. Right, and it's not like I hate the character. It's that the character is, once you understand kind of what this character is capable of based on just what other characters mention, it becomes such a focus that you're constantly thinking about Tom Bombadil. Like there's no
maybe he should have his own standalone spinoff.
Sure, but I don't even know what that looks like because it's just kind of goofy. Like, it'd just be silliness, right? Because like that's kind of Tom Bombadil almost embodies like, you know, like life is too short to be serious kind of attitude, even though Tom Bombadil lives forever. So like Tom Bombadil just kind of going around having fun, which, you know, maybe that is a show worth watching. Like, maybe there is some fun there. I just don't know how that would work in terms of like bringing up drama or you know what it kind of would remind me of, not exactly like style wise, but like One Punch Man. You know what I'm talking about, where like the character is unbeatable.
Like he's depressed because he's so good.
Right. So here we'd have to change that. Instead of being depressed because he's so good, we have to almost make Tom Bombadil unaware of how good he is, and just how he's just happy to like be singing his song and saving the day. Like it'd be tough to do, but I think it maybe could be done in that way. But yeah, honestly, I'm really torn about Tom Bombadil being included, because if we are going to say that these are the prequels to The Hobbit, which is the prequel to the original trilogy, including Tom Bombadil in any of them, makes him follow through all the way through to the original trilogy. And I personally don't want that. I don't want Tom Bombadil to be a part of the original trilogy ever.
Tom Bombadil. You don't want to see Tom Bombadil fight a Balrog?
I mean, look, if you want to see Tom Bombadil fight a Balrog, what you do is you go and get your hands on a copy of the old strategy game, the old Lord of the Rings strategy game, Battle for Middle. Is it Battle for Middle Earth 2? Battle for Middle Earth 2. Tom Bombadil is a character that you can get, and he can fight a Balrog in that, if that's what you really want to see.
Did Tom win?
Does Tom win? Yes, of course Tom. I actually don't know. I think so. I think he wins. So Tom Bombadil, so like the strategy game, he's essentially one of like the heroes. If you've ever played like the Warcraft 3.
I know of. I never owned it. I played it as a friend's house before. But...
Yeah. So he's like better than most units, but then like the enemy units are equal to him in strength, because otherwise he would be game breaking. And see, this is my problem with Tom Bombadil. If you actually portrayed him right in the game, he would be game breaking. And everyone would go for Tom Bombadil. Like, everyone would want Tom Bombadil on their team. What is an interesting thing is if Galadriel gets the ring, it's game breaking a little bit, which is good. I like the fact that that's accurate. Anyway, yeah, I would, if anyone wants to see that kind of crazy stuff, go play that game because you can do all sorts of fun stuff. You can have Galadriel with the ring, Gandalf with the ring, Balrog with the ring, whatever.
I mean, I think you could do it, like, because Tom Bombadil, they kind of have him... I mean, I wonder if you could have just Nori and the Stranger bump into Tom Bombadil on the way to going east.
I see what you're saying. Like, you're saying you essentially have almost like a one episode or maybe a handful of episodes.
They could mirror what happened in the Barrow Downs. Like they get
right
into a pickle and Tom Bombadil just kind of saves the day.
Right, which would then actually, in a way, set up in the books the fact that Gandalf has to go back and talk to Tom Bombadil at the end of it all, which would be interesting. But to me, if that happens, I would definitely want to make sure that this show... I know this show has nothing to do with the Peter Jackson stuff, but in a way, I view this as...
I was just thinking about that. Was that if they... Because I know they say it, they have nothing to do with Peter Jackson, but their Balrog looks identical, doesn't it?
Yes.
Or at least very close.
It looked identical to me.
So, I mean, if they wanted to dissociate from Peter Jackson, I almost think it would have been more interesting just to have a completely different character design for the Balrog.
Yep.
Because don't say there was a controversy of whether the Balrog actually had wings or not in Tolkien's description.
Yeah.
So you could, or how big it was. Like the Jackson one, they may have made the Balrog bigger than Tolkien's descriptions of the Balrog. So you could have had a smaller, more upright thing with no wings. It could have been a completely different Balrog.
Yeah, actually, you could have almost gone for like a burned human-looking character with almost like red eyes or something like that, and maybe like fire kind of rippling around them or something. I don't know.
I'm thinking fire giants from Age of Mythology.
Yeah. That's where I was kind of going too. Yeah, like I agree, and that. So my big question is, well, is this show in your mind related to Peter Jackson? Not like whether or not it is real life or not, but like when you watch
the comparison's inevitable. Yeah.
Right, but like when I watch this show, I am viewing it as if these characters become those characters. Whether or not that's what I should do, that's currently what I do.
Sure.
And for the moment, as long as I'm doing that kind of comparison, I don't want Tom Bombadil in here. But if this show were to go in a completely different direction, like let's say they kill off, I don't know, Elrond, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to, okay? For the record, I do not want Elrond. I like this character in this show. But if they killed Elrond off, I would then know, oh, this is not a prequel to Peter Jackson. This is its own thing. And in that way, I could then watch Tom Bombadil come in because it has nothing to do with Peter Jackson.
Really, actually, I know they couldn't use him because he's too established as Gimli. But I think Jonathan Rhys-Davies could play Tom Bombadil too.
Yep.
And they gave him. I mean, he played Treebeard, so which they gave a lot of lines to anyway. I'm like, yeah, but he could. Like, you hear him singing. If you watch Indiana Jones, you hear him singing.
Yes, you do. You do. You're right.
He's like, he's Tom Bombadil too. He could be Tom Bombadil.
You're right. He actually could. And honestly, the delivery he does with Treebeard is fantastic. He's essentially already auditioned for the role. So you're right. He could do a great job. But I mean, you're right. Like, he's already established. He's already been in it. Like, do we really want overlap of actors from the original trilogy to here? I don't know if do we want, if this show ends with Elijah Wood, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, if this show ends with Elijah Wood or Martin Freeman or something, like, I feel like at that point you cannot have Tom Bombadil in it. If that's how you end this show. Like, if this show has any tie-in to the Peter Jackson stuff, which to me it currently does, at least in my mind. Now maybe Tom Bombadil will break that for me.
They invited it themselves, making the Balrog identical.
Well, that, and also just the way, like, the way they've kind of tried to establish, I mean, at least not yet, but the way that they're going to try to establish like Elrond eventually, and Galadriel, like if they change them into what we see, like if we start to see Elrond behaving more like what we're used to, and Galadriel starts to do less sword fighting and more becoming more in tune with her magical abilities, then we're going to obviously make that leap where we say, oh, this could easily lead into the Hobbit and then into the original trilogy. So that, to me, like if they bring in Tom Bombadil here, it might actually completely disassociate from me, and I'll just say, okay, this is its own piece, and it's its own version of Middle Earth. I mean, already a lot of people already do that, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of not fans of this, but are fans of Peter Jackson's work, that are watching this, and it's like, this is not the Middle Earth that I think about. This is just a random side story that someone is trying to tell, but it has nothing to do with how I view Middle Earth. Currently, I put it all together. But maybe Tom Bombadil for me, if they do have a Tom Bombadil, it completely disassociates for me, and I go, okay, this is its own thing with a Tom Bombadil more closely similar to the books, whereas I prefer the Peter Jackson. I mean, I've already gone on this tangent, but I prefer the Peter Jackson changes. I think they're actually good for at least a modern society and how we appreciate the themes present in Tolkien's original work. I think the changes actually help Tolkien establish those themes versus go against the grain and push us away. So Tom Bombadil to me would be going back towards an older version of the story that I don't think works as well. So as much as I would love to see Jack Black singing, dancing, and doing all sorts of cool stuff, we would immediately stop talking about Galadriel and Sauron. So that's another problem, because right now we've got two characters that are fighting for center stage, right? Because like for the longest time we've been watching Galadriel and Sauron, and now we might have separate storylines for each of them. Throwing in Tom Bombadil, like literally I think you have it the best. Have him in for like a couple episodes, they bump into him, and then they go on their way. And that way Tom Bombadil doesn't overshadow everyone with his like because everyone's gonna like, here's the one thing though, I will ask this in the comments down below, let me know, would including Tom Bombadil make everyone more happy? Like, I know some people are already upset with the show, but would the inclusion of a character that is so idolized by the fan base, would that like immediately propel this show up a notch in terms of like it being good? Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's just an easy way to get cheap points from the viewers. Like, oh, they've got Tom Bombadil, I'll watch it again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the attitude would be. Do you think they would be like, no, don't ruin Tom Bombadil? Or would they be, oh good, we've finally seen Tom Bombadil on screen? I don't know.
Well, I think it depends. Like, I think it would depend on how they portray Tom Bombadil, because one thing I will give credit to people who dislike this show. It's not, I mean, some people just hate the show altogether, and that's fine. You don't have to like it, but a lot of people, it's certain aspects of the show that they're not happy with, but other aspects they're okay with, and they're able to kind of take the good with the bad and kind of balance that and say, look, I'm not in love with the show. It doesn't captivate me the way that the original trilogy does, but there are moments here and there that I can get into. And so for those people, depending on how this Tom Bombadil thing were to work out, I do think that it would actually propel it for them, because I think they would, if it's done right, and heck, I mean, it's hard to see how you'd screw this up, because Tom Bombadil is so goofy, and this is part of the weird problem, is like they already have enough goofiness going on. Do we really need another character to be goofy? And at least this one will be in keeping with Tolkien. Now the big problem is, do they have access to Tom Bombadil? Like, are they allowed to use Tom Bombadil?
I don't see why they wouldn't, because if it's for Lord of the Rings, they have rights to Lord of the Rings.
But they only have the rights to the appendices or something.
No, No, I think they have the rights to the books too.
Oh yeah, that's right. We covered that. They had the rights to all of it, but they chose to do just the appendices, and then they chose to change it all. Okay, here's a question. At this point, you'll see another video of ours that we recently did from an animated version of The Hobbit from 1966. Which is closer to the original works of Tolkien? That animated film or The Rings of Power? Which one is better? Is a better version?
You know what? That's a good question for the audience.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that as a short as well.
A lot of people probably would say it's like the same sort of distorted lens. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd say it's about equal.
Yeah,
like
me too.
Maybe you're getting the gist of it, but in a very rushed. Exactly. This is exactly what people complain about. It being rushed because they're condensing everything so that everyone can be alive.
Yeah.
For the whole thing, right?
Yep.
Because there's events that happened before Isildur should even be alive, and during the third and during the fourth existing at the same time is also condensing things. So it's almost the same approach.
Yeah.
Condensing and distorting, but still kind of getting the gist of it.
Yeah. I think you're right. So I do wonder what has more appreciation. Now, obviously, this being more fresh has a lot more fresh hatred, whereas when we watched the 1966 version, because it was so long ago and because we've already got so many other good versions, I don't hate it as much because
if you were told this 1967 version came out, this is the new canon, you're never getting another version of The Hobbit. Probably be mad.
You'd be mad. You would say this doesn't count. This isn't even The Hobbit. This is somebody who read the books a long time ago and then was asked to recall from memory, and they didn't even really like the book anyway. They remember there was some troll. Oh no, they're not trolls.
There's something about a grablin.
There's some grablins. There's a magic ring. Gandalf wants this ring. Also, Bilbo's the chosen one. There's an Arkenstone.
There must have been a princess in there. I don't remember, but there must have been. All these stories have princesses.
You know what it reminds me of? Yeah, it reminds me of when I ask a layperson who has watched like the Lord of the Rings once. I ask them what happened, and then they'll give me random tidbits. Like they'll be like, Sam was dropping eaves, and then they went and they met the elves, but oh wait, Aragorn was there too somehow, and like they just kind of combine a bunch of moments. You know what I mean?
They see Isildur, and they're like, "That's Aragorn's dad."
Yeah. Yeah. So like they combine a bunch of stuff, and I think that's what we kind of watched, and that's sort of what we're watching with the Rings of Power. So that's what it reminds me of. I kind of want, you know, it would be a fun idea, but we'll do this in another video. Is we'll have.
But you know what? I have to say, it's even worse than that, though, because even if you've read The Hobbit once, and it was years ago, I think you still remember there were dwarves in it.
Okay, you got me there. You definitely remember the story. I don't know how they messed that up. I don't know why. I get that they were probably trying to just like make it less for people to take in at once because they were gonna cover hobbits, groans, grablins. They're gonna have some creature called a Galoom. Like they figured that's too much. Let's not bring in the elves or the dwarves. It's just too much. But yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it. Let us know what you guys think about Tom Bombadil being in the Rings of Power. Like, would you like to see it? I think we've asked this before, and we've had a few interesting answers. But if Tom Bombadil is in Rings of Power, do you want it to be Jack Black? Who else could do it? That's another one. Like, I'm trying to think who else other than Jonathan Rhys-Davies and Jack Black. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, who else has that kind of persona?
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron. Oh.
Yeah. High School Musical. I get John Travolta back. to play Tom Bombadil.
John Travolta, Tom Cruise, in a fat
Cruise.
suit. In a fat suit. There's no way. To be honest, there's no way you get Tom Cruise to do this. There's not enough. There's not enough action for his character. He wouldn't do it.
George Clooney.
George Clooney. Okay, now we're just getting silly. Like Leonardo DiCaprio. That's who I want. That's my Tom Bombadil. That's the only way you'll get me to watch Tom Bombadil. It's DiCaprio.
Tommy Wiseau.
That one makes sense. I would watch that. Actually, I would love to see Tommy Wiseau make Lord of the Rings, an entire trilogy of. I
Tommy
did.
Wiseau as Sauron.
I did not steal that ring. I did not. Oh, hi, Sam.